Oh, there you are.
I just want to see whether it actually plays to stereotypes. That's all.
Yeah.
Where are you? I can see a light. Oh god, okay. I was like, I can see it on the floor. I was like, oh, right.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and today I'm taking a look at Contagion. And if you've been following my channel for a long time, you probably realize that this is a game I've actually covered before. But it's now been launched on Steam as a full version. The version that you might have seen me play before was an early access build, which for all intents and purposes was pretty much incomplete at that point in time. So you can go and check out those videos to see what it looked like before, and maybe do your own comparisons between now and then. But now that it's been released on Steam, is it any good? And, well, let's take a look at it. It's definitely a lot more polished than it used to be. There's a fully functioning menu, a lot of details in the options menu, a lot of graphics options, a lot of things that you can definitely change, which it may or may not have had before, but definitely it's a very well fleshed out thing nonetheless. There are a couple of problems with the menus, like for example, trying to click through the different game modes of different maps. You can cycle forward, but you can't cycle back. It's a little bit of an oversight, probably something they missed trying to do the menu, but it's not overly a big deal or anything. Mainly because there aren't that many maps. Since the launch, they've actually only added 2 new maps from what I can tell. Barlow Square and another one which appears to be some sort of freight yard. As far as game modes go, they haven't really expanded too much on that. But having a new escape map is pretty interesting, which I'll show you a little bit later on in this video. So, as I described it before, actually, I've been saying this for a long time, Contagion is probably the most atmospheric zombie game I've ever played. It is, without a doubt, a zombie FPS game. You know, there are plenty of these around. There's the King of the Hill's always been Left 4 Dead, and to a certain extent Killing Floor, No More Room in Hell has all been pretty similar. Contagion itself has been based on an old mod called Zombie Panic. It's supposed to be the spiritual successor to that. And it does feature randomly generated objectives, maps that change from time to time, although the map itself is still the same, but the path that you take throughout the map is different. So, in the classic map that they've remade in Contagion is Roanoke PD, which is set in the police station. The objectives do change. Sometimes you escape through the garage in the basement, and sometimes you escape through the roof. They're different ways of escaping, but the way you take to get there will always change. The locations of things like keys and gadgets and weapons will also randomize. So sometimes you get a little bit lucky, right? Sometimes you catch a lucky break and you find an assault rifle in the first room that you go into. And there you go, you're kind of set. You've got the best weapon you could possibly have for close quarters. You might find a shotgun or something. Other times, you might not find a single gun anywhere. You might not find ammo as often as you might like to. And that's where things get a little bit dicey. But this is not, by any stretch, an easy game to play. In fact, since I last played it, it seems like it's gotten even tougher. In the past, zombies didn't have a particularly good AI, they didn't seem to notice things very easily, and they didn't react very well when you would approach them. Sometimes they'd be, you know, they would detect you, but they wouldn't react accordingly. They would just sort of wander off in a random direction. Now, though, the AI is still pretty similar. I wouldn't say they've improved it all that much, but they're a lot harder to kill. In the past, you would get surrounded by 4 to 5 zombies, and it would be something that would be an inconvenience. You might survive it, but generally that's sort of a death sentence, but it would take you a while to die. Now, though, having just 2 zombies on you is a really big deal. You don't seem to be able to damage them as easily, and they do a lot more damage to you. And since the launch, they've also added in the infection mode. So, if you've taken enough damage, or you just happen to be a little bit unlucky, or they happen to grab you and take a big bite out of your neck, you can actually find yourself being infected, and the actual experience of it is pretty dramatic. As you're going to see right here in the video, the vision itself starts to blur out a bit. When you sway from side to side, you turn your view around, it tends to make you look like you're a little bit drunk. Everything sort of blends in together, and the color starts to drain out, and you got this sort of vignette thing going around the edge of the screen. All very graphically nice, and it sort of brings in the intensity of it that, yeah, something's happened to you. And eventually you will turn. So it's kind of, if you're in a multiplayer situation like I am in this particular clip, you're gonna find yourself going, well, hang on, should I tell the team or not? After all, it is very much a cooperative game. So you can see, in this case, I happen to tell my friend, look, I'm infected. And as soon as I turn, she turns around and puts a bullet right in my head. So thank you very much for that. But this is exactly what this whole game is about. It's all about the atmosphere of it. The maps themselves are really big. In Barlow Square especially, there's a whole different aspect to it, because there's an underground area, there's also rooftops, and then there's the street level. So, aside from having the huge amount of horizontal space, you've got this verticality to it that didn't exist in the Roanoke PD map, for example. So, the map itself is bigger in different ways. While it's still pretty easy to get lost, and to be honest, that's half the fun of the game, the map itself is really conducive to kind of exploring and, in some cases, drawing zombies out. After all, there are loads of them on the map. But all things considered, the atmosphere is also further enhanced by the weapons themselves. Now, there are a lot of weapons in this game, ranging from shotguns to different types of assault rifles, pistols, and so on and so forth, and since the launch they have added more. But something about the sound assets in particular in this game seem to bring about the atmosphere even stronger. For example, when you fire a pistol, even the starter pistol, which is some sort of 9mm pistol, it does a decent amount of damage and has a lot of kick to it, but at the same time it has a really nice echoey shot to it, so it doesn't feel weak at all. At the same time, when you land a headshot on a zombie, you can see the gibbing and everything, which makes the whole experience of firing at a zombie even more intense. However, landing body shots seem to do almost nothing. Even though it will eventually take them down, you seem to get, like they seem to be a bit spongy, absorbing a lot more damage. Maybe a lot more than they used to, in fact. So some of the weapons may tend to feel a little underwhelming when you actually hit. But again, good marksmanship seems to be encouraged. So, all in all, the weapons themselves are great. I don't like the melee weapons, though, I will say, because as compared to the previous time, they seem to be a lot harder to use and a lot riskier, so there's not much reward in actually using them, and generally are a last resort when you're pretty sure you're gonna die. So, that's my take on the actual content itself. Now, one additional feature that I want to talk about just before I end this video is just that they've added voice acting to all the characters, or at least it seems like all of the characters, because I haven't played all of them yet, but they seem to all have unique voice acting and phrases. While this is an excellent touch and adds a little bit more to the characters, I'm a little bit skeptical as to whether or not that's a good thing, because I've been talking about the atmosphere and the environment in this game a lot, and I gotta say that in some cases the things that the characters say may be a little immersion breaking. For example,
any way to treat your elders.
You see what I mean? Yeah, trying to be a little bit stealthy, trying to avoid getting shot, and your character says something like that, tends to not be in your best interest. And honestly, it's just, maybe it's a personal preference, but I don't really like it all that much.
But not to worry, if you're not a fan of the voices, you can actually disable them in the options menu. So, not really such a big problem then if you don't like it. So, is it any good? Well, at first glance, it might not seem like there's a lot of content. After all, there's not that many maps, and some of the modes are definitely multiplayer only. So if you're looking for a solo experience, you're probably not going to find it there. However, with the amount of things that are already available, there's loads of weapons available, and the randomized objectives really help assist in the replayability. So as far as it goes, there's more than enough content for you to be entertained significantly. This is definitely a title that's come a long way since its early access days and has a lot of potential going for it. So for its price point, definitely worth checking out. This has been Panzer taking a look at Contagion, now available on Steam for $19.99 or your regional equivalent. I want to give a special thank you to Foxy Fauna for joining me for a playthrough of this game and helping me test out some of the multiplayer features. Link to her channel will be available in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.